Hi everyone, and thanks for joining tonight. My name is Julia Mulliken, and I'm the Physician and Community Liaison here at Buffalo Rehab Group. I'm so excited to get started. Tonight I have Jill Katz, occupational therapist, and Tina Hines, physical therapist, here to talk about exercise to prevent falls and really just overall better balance. So thanks for joining us, guys. You want to go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourselves?
Sure. First off, shout out to June and Ed Taylor. And my name's Jill Katz. I'm an occupational therapist here at Buffalo Rehab Group. I went to Stony Brook University, and then after I graduated, I joined Buffalo Rehab Group as their first occupational therapist. So that's a little bit about me.
And now how many OTs?
Oh, yeah. So now we have 3 OTs, including myself, and we have our first OT assistant. So that's awesome.
Awesome. So building the team as we go.
Absolutely.
All right. And Tina, want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. My name's Kristina Hines, and I'm a physical therapist. I work out of our Boulevard, Tonawanda location. I graduated from Damon College in 2019 and began working with Buffalo Rehab Group shortly after. So that's a little bit about my background.
And what's coming for you?
Yeah, I'll be opening our new location this upcoming year. It'll be up in the North Towns on the corner of Sheridan Boulevard and Eggert. So we're really looking forward to that opportunity. It'll be really exciting.
Yeah, and be able to serve even more of our community.
Yeah.
Members, so super excited for her. All right, guys. So we're going to talk about fall prevention, right? And it's a really big issue. But can one of you just kind of elaborate on maybe why fall prevention is such a big issue in the community for everybody?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at what do most people want as they age, and that's independence. So they want to be able to age in their homes, and as a daughter and as a granddaughter, and I'm sure the same for both of you, we want to make sure that our loved ones are doing that safely. So really, really important to make sure that our loved ones are able to do what's important to them. So as an occupational therapist, I kind of take a unique perspective on balance training and fall prevention, because I really kind of look at the whole picture of how they're doing that activity, how may we adapt that activity, what is there a different way that they can be successful doing that activity, whatever is important to them. So really it's a big focus on how do we get people doing what's important to them and how do we get them doing it safely.
Awesome. And then I think obviously there's another reason too, maybe is, it's expensive to have a fall, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you think about you could fall and break some bones, and it could definitely be a big cost, expense. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, so not just like you said, I love that we're not just living a long life, but we're living like a fulfilled life, throughout that entire,
Oh, absolutely.
course too. Awesome. So can we talk about where do falls occur, right? Like where is this the biggest issue?
Yeah, so I think an important thing to talk about prior to that is really, a fall is not a normal part of aging. It's something that can be prevented. So it's important to really, make sure that you're having those open conversations with your primary care physicians or with your therapist, if you're currently seeing one, about if you have a history of falls, if you've fallen recently, if you feel unsteady on your feet or when you're walking or when you're doing everyday activities, to really pay attention to that. And kind of going off of that too, it's being familiar with what are your medications that you're taking. Are any of those maybe putting you at a higher risk for falls? Because that's something to consider also. And so, when we think about falls, it's 6 out of 10 falls occur in your own home.
Wow.
And they occur in your own home because you're most comfortable in your own home. So you're not really paying attention to, or not paying as much attention to your safety in terms of, you might be kind of rushing through things or climbing up on a stool. I know I'm guilty of that. Climbing up on
your slippers.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. So it's really, we definitely increase our chance of falls when we're doing everyday activities because it's kind of muscle memory. So we're not necessarily thinking about safety as much.
So let's kind of talk then. All right, we know we're in the home. 6 out of 10 falls are happening there. What are maybe like the top 5 things or objects that are maybe causing those falls within the home themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. a big one. Most people have at least one in their house, probably more than that. Throw rugs are a big one. You know, it's
I love a good rug.
Right? Exactly.
It really ties the room together.
Yeah, but they're a fall risk. So, you know, it's anytime you're having a rug it's not flat to the surface. So really, you know, it's your foot could get caught on it, a walker could get caught on it, a cane, anything really. But obviously we understand not everyone's ready to take them to the curb. So if you're not, you know, some safer alternatives could be a non-skip mat underneath, could be double-sided tape, kind of things like that, or at least increasing the chances, or increasing your safety, decreasing the chances of falls. And then kind of going off of that are cords. So I know, like I said, I'm guilty of it too. I have cords hanging around my house. You have your TV cords, lamp cords, computer cords, really everything, and extension cords. Those are a big one also. So when we have those extension cords around, you know, that's increasing the chances that you might be falling on those. So a good alternative for that is to kind of coil up those cords as much as you can, so you don't have as much access cord hanging around. And then one step further than that is, you know, you could hire an electrician that can add a couple more outlets so that you have less cords. So that's, you know, that's the safest option, but understand not everyone is going to go out and have 12 more outlets installed into their house.
I think even now some companies too are adding like outlets into your furniture. Too. So you could, you know, if you want to splurge on a piece of furniture that maybe has some additional outlets for you too.
Yeah.
That might help as well.
Exactly.
What else? What else is causing those falls?
So a big one is lighting. So, you know, it's out of those 6 out of 10 falls that occur in your house, 20% of those are in the middle of the night. And that's typically when you're getting up to maybe use the bathroom when you're half asleep. It's dark out. It's dark in your house. Exactly. So, you know, having a lit up pathway to the bathroom, and then also having a light in the bathroom too. Maybe a night light or something that's a little dimmer, so you're not necessarily turning on the lights and then all of a sudden we're trying to adjust our eyes to that as we re-enter the bedroom or the hallway. So having some night lights or some type of light that's going to kind of lead that pathway. And a step further than that too is they make outlet covers that actually have like sensor lights in them. So that's a good option too, and pretty easy to install. And with those, you know, you're not taking up all your outlets too. So that's always helpful. So then our fourth one is pets. You know, that's a big one. Exactly. We all love our We all love our furry friends. I know I have two, and they love to get under my feet, especially when they're hungry. So it's being mindful of where your pet is in relation to you. So are they right behind you if you're cooking on the stove because they want some food? You know. So a good option for that is to have a bell on their collar. And a safe option for your pet, I know you just got a puppy, a safe option for your pet is to have a breakaway collar so that, you know, we're protecting our pets too. But the sound is definitely a helpful reminder. And then the last one is just being mindful when you're carrying things around your house. You know, it's if you're coming in with a car full of groceries that you're not trying to do it all in one trip, and you know, you're freeing up those arms so that you can hold onto the railing. And same with going up and down stairs in terms of laundry bins. It's making sure you're not trying to carry too much in one go, or maybe even getting some type of option that can you can put it on your back or wear it across your body, something that's, you know, going to help distribute the weight and free up your hands.
Yeah, I am the worst with that. I only want to take one trip. And so I pile it all on. So I'll take your advice and try and take, you know, a few trips and not slip and fall as I'm walking into my apartment.
Absolutely.
All right, great. So, okay, we know now falls are happening in the home. We've kind of identified those areas or things that we should be looking out for or taking special care about. What if people think, well, I have those, maybe I've fallen before, or I feel like, you know, I feel off balance, I feel uneasy. Are there ways that we can kind of determine if they're at risk for a fall?
Absolutely. There's a couple tests. Tina's going to she's going to walk us through them.
Perfect. So we're actually going to shift gears over to the side here just so Jill has a little bit more space.
Perfect.
So let's come on over this way. The first test that we're going to begin with, let me get our chair here. And I'm going to actually have you just take a seat right in the chair here, Jill, so they can see you here. Okay.
Don't fall
awesome.
out of the chair.
Yeah. So this first test that we're going to start with is actually called a sit to stand test. It's exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to ask Jill to be sitting in a chair, preferably without arms. The reason that this would be a benefit is because I want her to try to use her leg strength. So this is a really good test for assessing, one, endurance. So how many repetitions of something can she do in a period of time, right? And then how strong are her legs? Is she able to get herself up and down from the chair? So essentially, like I said, all you need is a chair and a timer. So what I would ask Jill to do is cross her arms, keep her feet flat on the floor. I'm going to ask her to stand up out of the chair when I say go, and then we're going to time that. So we would start a timer for 30 seconds. So you could go ahead, Jill, pretend I said go. I'm going to ask her to complete those repetitions successfully. If she can stand all the way up, that counts as 1 repetition. Okay, so she's cruising here. She's pretty strong in the legs. She's got some nice endurance going, which is good to see. And then you just want to make sure that the chair is not going to slip on whatever surface you have, especially because it doesn't have arms on it. And we're probably testing for somebody that already has a balance deficit. So you just want to be cautious of that. Staying close by to somebody. Jill hit her 30 seconds, perfect. And we would calculate that score. So we will be sending you guys out a sheet that there's some research normative values for this test in particular that bases it off gender. So it'll show a men and women category and then also age from 60 upwards. So based on what your score is within that 30 seconds, there's like a cutoff line, and if it's below that value that they require, then that would show that you're a falls risk. So really easy for you to do at home if you're concerned about yourself or maybe even a loved one. Pretty safe for you to perform. So this is one that we commonly use in the clinic. So our second test here that we're going to try is called our tug test. So tugs.
And Tina, sorry, before you talk about that. So when
Sure.
Jill was coming down too, she shouldn't be falling into the chair though,
Correct,
right? So
correct.
she should kind of be easing her way down into the chair?
Yes. So
Okay.
in addition to quantity, right, we're counting how many she can do. You're always looking at the quality of movement. Is a patient struggling to get in out of the chair? Are they hoisting themselves up? Are they teetering to one side? Are they falling down into the chair when they come back down? Like Julia said, you want to be cautious and mindful of that as well. Although they may be successful in performing the motion, are they safe while they're doing it ultimately? It's very important as well.
Now you can move on.
All right, perfect. So as I said before, our tug test is next. So tug stands for timed up and go. This is a really great functional mobility test we like to use in the clinic. I'm sure Jill uses it as well. But I like to use it, one, to just assess a patient's ability to get in and out of the chair. You get to see what their walking looks like and also their turning. So this is a good one that I ask them to wear their typical normal footwear because you want to see how they function, one, within the home and then also the community. If they have to, most people have to perform these tasks day in and day out. If this is something that when you normally walk, you use a cane or a walker, you would do that and use that with this test. So you're not trying to take their support away from them. You're not trying to make them off balance. You're already suspecting that there's a balance deficit, so you don't want to put them more at risk for that. So again, this is a test that it's usually a chair with arms for this one, but it's okay. We'll make it work for today's purpose. So similar, I'm going to explain the instructions to Jill first. So Jill, when I say go, you're going to stand up. As soon as her bottom leaves the chair is when you would start that timer. She's going to walk 10 feet towards Julia, make a turn, come back to the chair, and then take a seat. As soon as her bottom then hits the chair, I would hit stop. So I'm always encouraging to go at a normal pace. You never want to rush or encourage a patient because they think everything's a test and they're trying to complete things for speed. But again, if you're suspecting that there's a balance deficit, you don't want them to move fast because then they're going to be more at risk for a fall. So just say, I just want to see how you get up out of a chair, how you walk, and how you navigate some turns. So what we're going to do, and then you just kind of set the test up. So you're not biasing them to, say, I want to see how fast you can do it, or I want to time you while you're doing it. That's something that you can kind of perform independently. So Jill, when you're ready, I'm going to go ahead and start, and then I would hit my timer. She would stand up, walk 10 feet. She would turn around, nice and confident turn back to the chair and sit back down, and then you would hit stop.
Hair flip as she's going.
Exactly. So, that was pretty speedy. Obviously, we see Jill's not a falls risk, but generally speaking, anything above 12 seconds you're considered a falls risk. There are some normative research values for like more neurologic conditions like a stroke, Parkinson's, things of that nature that you can access online pretty traditionally. But like I said, 12 seconds is kind of like that gold standard. We want to be under 12 seconds. Again, always looking at quality of motion. If Jill is falling on her turns or she's shuffling on her turns, I might say, I'm going to make note of that. Although she completed in 10 seconds, maybe I'm going to work on her turning abilities, and we're going to work on walking in the clinic today. Or maybe we're going to work on, her leg strength and getting in and out of the chair. So you as a clinician can also bias your treatment based on what you're seeing in just the quality of the test as well as the quantity.
Yes, but what I love about these tests too is that if somebody's watching this and they do think that maybe they're at a fall risk or a loved one, that they know is at a fall risk, you could do these obviously supervised with a person, but they could kind of see where they are and say, okay, I think I'm at a fall risk. Tina, now I need to come see you to figure out how I can, stop being a fall risk, right? Or maybe improve too.
Yep.
So I think we're actually going to kind of talk about that as at the, after our break too. So we'll be right back to kind of converse and bring this all full circle. So you guys say, okay, now I know if I'm at a risk for a fall and what can I do to maybe adjust that. All right.
This is where Leah learned to dribble, where James first picked up a brush, where Bella made meal kits for neighbors in need. This school year, many YMCAs are transforming some of their spaces for virtual learning, dedicating staff and even providing meals. So now, this is also where they will master long division, study photosynthesis, and learn when they need support, the Y is there for them. The Y, forever learning for a better us.
Pain was really bad, and it was very crippling. A lot of pain. Yeah, there were times when you thought, this is it. The main thing that it really prevented me doing was from being with the grandchildren. But the exercises that he taught me, little by little, I saw progress. I'm back to my normal life. Besides getting you better, they teach you how to live a life that will prevent you from going backwards again. They all care about the patients. That's where you're going to find your hope, and that's where you're going to feel better. I'm back.
Hi guys, hope you enjoyed our quick little break. Maybe you got a little stretch, stand up, got a glass of water, and now we can get back to talking more about balance and what exercises to really help you maintain your balance and really that longevity and freedom and independence, right? All right, so we talked about falls. So most people are falling in their home. A lot of them are at night. And then we talked about those top 5 things that are causing falls, all right? So you want to recap those real quick, Jill?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So like we talked about previously, those 5 top things that are causing falls in the home. That's going to be those throw rugs, the cords, low lighting in the house, especially at night. Your pets, unfortunately, and kind of walking around the house, especially up and down stairs, carrying a lot of things. Those can definitely increase the risk of falls.
Great. Now, Tina, so when we talk about people describing bad balance, though, right, there is an area too that it sometimes isn't just balance. It's like this off or unsteady feeling where maybe they need to hold on to furniture. So let's talk about another alternative potentially to just having that bad balance.
Yeah, so as we age, there's really a lot of different things that can feed into balance. So this isn't going to be a straightforward answer, but generally speaking, people lose sensation or their ability to sense where their body is in space. Our proprioceptors are muscles, receptors within our joints that tell our brain kind of where our balance is. Okay, this is where I am. So we lose that sensitivity as we age, and then also our skin sensation. So you might hear people say, oh, I have neuropathy or something of that nature, and that really does influence their ability to, one, detect how their foot hits the ground or where their feet are in space, and then how their brain perceives that as well. So that's usually, people will say, I'm fine as long as I can touch onto the furniture, because they might not have that feedback from their feet, so they're trying to seek it from their hands or a different part of their body. There's also people describe maybe like, you hear like a vertigo or like a room spinning dizziness, right? That's a little bit different, where people might say, hey, every time I do this, I feel like the room's spinning. They might get nauseous or feel sensation or need to vomit. That it might be like a positional vertigo, right? Where people might say they have crystals in their ears, if that's something that sounds familiar. So there are small pieces of calcium carbonate essentially that function within your inner ear. And the function of those is to tell your, again, brain and head, this is where I am in space, I'm going this fast, I'm moving in this direction. So if those become mislodged, it can give our body a false sense of movement, and it may feel like the room is spinning or that you're off balance. So that might be a little bit of a different dizziness or balance disorder that you might encounter.
But luckily there is a way to address that, right?
Oh yeah, certainly. So that's a little bit easier of a fix, right? So there's a manual repositioning technique that we can perform for like a true positional vertigo called the Epley maneuver. So a lot of people tend to look this up at home and give that a try. Sometimes successful, sometimes not, but it definitely is usually a pretty successful fix within a couple sessions, which is really great for our patients.
Great. So let's circle back and talk about, all right, we've identified how at home, they can have these falls. Maybe they understand now, okay, I've seen the tests, I'm going to try the tests, or maybe they did them along with Jill as she was doing them herself. But now we're thinking, okay, I need to work on my balance. So let's talk about, all right, we're getting to the good stuff now. How are you actually going to fix your balance at home?
Sure. So we're going to torture Jill a little bit today. So
it's exciting.
I hope she practiced for this moment. So when I'm looking at somebody's balance, I'm always going to start with a test, and then based on how that test goes, that test will turn into my treatment. So this is another really good way for you guys to assess yourself, and then also increasingly begin to challenge yourself a little bit more. So
right.
With balance, you want it to be challenging enough where you feel like, okay, I'm kind of struggling to maintain this position, but you shouldn't be falling trying to do the exercise. So that's the other important things. We're trying to prevent the injury here. So just be cautious when you are trialing these. Always start at the baseline and then try to increase it, as I'll demonstrate here with Jill. So Jill, I'm going to have you
Let's start. I'm going to come around the side actually, so she can be in the center.
So what I'm going to have you do is start with your feet together. So this is what we call a narrow base of support. So base of support is essentially the radius of where your feet contact the ground. When your feet are nice and wide, you have a nice stable base of support, right? So as I asked Jill to narrow her feet together, we suddenly make that base of support much smaller. And when we do that, it can make people feel off balance, or like they're swaying, or they might not be able to maintain that position. So this is always my starting position. I'm going to have Jill's feet touching each other, nice and narrow, eyes open, hands down at her side. If she can successfully maintain this position for about 20 to 30 seconds, I'm going to say, okay, she passed. This is a little easy for her. So let's kick it up a notch. So what I'm going to have her do next is what we call a tandem balance. So for a sense of you guys seeing at home, go ahead and face me for this one, Jill. And then I'm going to have her bring her right heel to her left toe. And I'm going to get her a slight bend in that front leg. So I want an even weight distribution on both feet here. So same thing, her hands are at her side. She's trying to balance. We have a really narrow, slim base of support in this position. And she's doing really well. So I'm going to say, let's take it to the next level here. So I'm going to have you face back to the camera again here. And now we're going to go into a single leg balance. So let's just balance on your left leg for now. So yep, you could do hands on your hips if that gives you some more support. I tend to have people avoid doing like airplane arms because they'll start to, tip their trunk one way or the other. So hands on the hips, nice and stable. You're keeping everything nice and tight and engaged. So,
and if somebody's trying this at home, definitely probably be by a stable surface.
Exactly.
Right? So I would be by a wall.
Yep, countertop,
yep.
Kitchen sink, whatever you can find that best suits you in your environment. So you could go ahead and relax, Jill. So now, since she is pretty much a master at this and seemed to do pretty well, again, you're aiming for pretty much 20 to 30 seconds. Once you feel like you've hit that 30-second peak, you're not swaying, you don't seem to feel a challenge or fatigue, definitely time to move on to the next exercise, okay? So balance exercises I typically recommend of this nature. You can try them once a day. If you're getting sore because you might not be as fit or you're not exercising as much, if you are sore, just take a day off and then get back to it the day after. So maybe like 3 days a week would be a little bit more sufficient for that. So since she mastered that, eyes open, I'm going to have her go back into the same position, that narrow base of support. She's going to set herself up, and then she's going to close her eyes. So a lot of times, as Jill was talking, falls happen in the home, and then 20% of those falls happen at night. So the balance system is really unique in that it's made up of a lot of different things. So our vision is one, right? You have to see your environment coming in to relay that information to your brain. 2, your muscle strength, right? You need some support to support our bodies when we're moving. And then 3, as we talked about before, those proprioceptors. So those are those small little receptors in our joints that then relay that information as to where our body is in space. So if we take one of those away, we're going to require the other systems to work a little bit harder. And it is relevant, like Jill said, if you get out of bed at night or it's dark out and you're walking to your car, yes, you're not completely occluded, you're not blind, but you definitely need to rely on those other senses a little bit more. So it is really important for task-specific training when you're thinking of balance as well. So I'm going to have her return to that start position. She's going to get nice and stable, and then she's going to go ahead and close her eyes.
I'll catch you.
Really no sway though, so she's got some pretty good balance going on here, so not bad. So I'm going to have her open her eyes when I have her change position, right? She's going to be safe. So go ahead and we'll do that tandem balance. Since they've seen it in the first position, I think it's okay to do that heel to toe here. And then same thing when you're stable, go ahead and close those eyes. So see, she's got a little teeter. She's got a little teeter going on. So again, just make sure you're somewhere safe here. And then let's just for fun do the single leg. So go ahead and lift that leg up. Julia's our nice, And then you can see, it's pretty challenging even for an average person. So if you're trying this at home, you might look at and be like, I can stand on one foot, no problem. But when you start to get into these and maybe add a different variable, like closing your eyes or maybe, a different surface to stand on, that's when we really start to make it more like functional, realistic to our actual environment.
Awesome, great. So lots of balances for them to try at home and just really improve the balance too, right? They kind of act as a twofold.
That's right.
All right, what else could they do?
Okay, yeah, so next we're going to do what we call a ladder balance activity. So yes, if you wouldn't mind grabbing those sticks. So we're going to give Jill some nice support. Again, assuming we don't know what her balance is like, this is the first time I'm seeing her. I want to make her successful in the task. As I see that that's too easy, I'll start taking some support away. So how about you take Julia's spot? So you can come towards me. So what you're going to do is you're going to advance the sticks, right? The sticks should ideally be a touch shorter. Jill is doing a great job in making these work for her. So she's going to advance the sticks. She's going to take a step with the right foot, and then she's going to lift the left leg into the air. So this is a more dynamic balance activity, as the other ones were more static. So she was staying in one spot. This is going to be more functional as something like walking, maybe stair climbing up a curb, something where she needs to hold that balance while her body's moving. And we're giving her success by giving her some upper body support. So great way to start with using sticks or poles or canes, or you could use 2 walls or a countertop if in an island, wherever you have a nice space to do this. And I would typically have somebody go for 10 or 15 steps, see how you feel. If you're successful with that, you can always increase your reps or sets from there. Okay, so if I want to make it harder on Jill like we did earlier, I'm going to have her ditch the sticks. And we'll start back by the chair there. And what you're going to do is hands on hips, and you're going to try to do the same task where you're going to step and then lift, holding for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then advancing. Perfect. She's already a rock star for those of you watching at home. All right, so that's pretty good there. And then another, if you're pretty functional, athletic, we can always add a weight, a kettlebell on one side that will maybe want to pull you down that way. You can hold the kettlebell overhead, kind of engage the core and work some different structures there. So a lot of ways to really make these suitable and applicable to all ages, not just elderly people.
Great.
Yeah.
What else?
All right, let's try.
I'm ready for the next one, Tina.
You guys are eager learners today. All right, perfect. So next we're going to try some squats. So everybody loves a good squat, or maybe they don't, but you should love a good squat, because the reason you should love a good squat is because everybody needs to get in and out of a chair, and everybody needs to get on and off the toilet, and everybody needs to get stuff off the ground. Mm-hmm. So you always will hear, I'm in the restroom, maybe you're visiting a family member's house and they can't get up off the toilet. It might be lower than they would have expected. Or maybe they bent over to grab something, lost their balance, and fell. So squatting is super functional activity, as we tested in the sit to stand test. Mm-hmm. It tests your leg strength, maybe your endurance. Everybody needs to know how to squat. So we're going to really put Jill to the test today. So I'm going to have let's stand facing sideways so they can see what's going on with your hips here. So what I typically do when I'm asking my patients to do a squat, shoulder width apart, stance here, so you have, again, a nice stable base of support. Her feet are going to stay nice and flat on the ground, and I'm usually encouraging them not to use their arms, so we want them to really focus on engaging the core and the hip muscles. So Jill, go ahead and cross those arms across your chest. I'm going to have you engage the core, keep it nice and tight. You're going to sit those hips down and back as you lower those knees, and then right back up to standing. Perfect. So this is, I I wouldn't say an advanced version, but if you're feeling like you're trying this and you're like, there's no way I could ever do that, that sit to stand is a great way to do it. So you could always bring a chair behind you, completely come down, transfer the weight, and then push back up after you do. So really easy way to modify it. As that gets easier, you're kind of doing multiple repetitions of that. Go ahead and transition where you don't have something behind you. Really require a little bit more strength out of those legs. You can practice, maybe lifting a weight off the ground like you would with groceries or grandchildren, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of ways, again, to progress this by just adding weight and making it a little bit more functional for your day-to-day.
How many reps should they start with as they're doing these?
Yes, so there's not always a perfect science, but start with 10. If 10 seems to be, too challenging, then maybe you want to start with 5. And then if 10 seems to be, okay, that was a breeze, then go ahead and add a second or third set of 10 in. But again, given that it's a strengthening exercise, you don't want to be doing this every day. You want to give the muscles a chance to recover in between. It would be like going to the gym and doing 100 bicep curls every day, right? Your arms would feel like they're going to fall off. So you want to challenge it, you expect to have a little muscle soreness, but you shouldn't be unable to walk for days after. So just keep that in mind when you're doing these.
Now, for those that are watching at home and maybe want to do a little bit more prevention, so they are able to stay active longer. So they're active currently right now, but want to be able to just improve their balance. What are some things that they can do? To keep that, maintain that balance that they already have.
Sure. So a common thing I always see at the gym is people love to be static or stationary, right? So everybody's, doing a bench press or like bicep curls and they're sitting, or maybe an overhead press and they're sitting. So a great way to incorporate your balance is to stand for absolutely any exercise. So you're working on your proprioception, telling where your body is in space, working your core, getting everything engaged in kind of one bang for your buck type exercise. So trying that, you can always try doing something on one leg. Obviously, you have to make sure you're pretty stable, but doing cable work or maybe resistance bands where you're balancing on one leg and maybe pulling them down and working on the triceps, just trying to get some different muscle groups working, but still challenging maybe your base of support.
Or even maybe like if they're doing dishes or something, they could be on one leg.
I wouldn't recommend maybe boiling water and closing your eyes, but dishes would be good too.
Don't clean the china when you're doing this, just in case.
Yeah,
or the knives. Keep the knives away. Great, awesome. So really progressing, and then kind of talk to me though about, you mentioned the benefits of squats and stuff. So explain how strengthening, it's kind of like a lesser known benefit, but how does that contribute to balance too?
Yeah, so when you think about muscle strength and resistance training and age, everybody knows our bone strength declines. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to watch the ladies last week, but they really made a good point relative to bone strength and preserving that bone strength with resistance and strength training. So anytime that you're on your feet and those muscles are working, we're providing a force against those bones to maintain longevity, right? So when you think about osteopenia or osteoporosis, maybe some of those scarier risks of aging, those bones are more prone to fracture, right? So if you're going to fall, and you don't have that balance and stability, and your bones are weak because you don't have strength, you're more likely to end up in, unfortunately, a not so great situation. So 1 in 5 falls actually result in a fracture or a head injury, which is pretty crazy. So when people fall, then they get scared to move, and then when they don't move, they lose strength, and then they're more at risk for falling. So it's kind of just like this vicious cycle that we can really help prevent with educating, really.
Yeah, and then because they're trying to do that strengthening, though, it's gonna, so if they fall, then they have a better chance of not breaking something too. We actually had a great question from the audience. Was obviously those poles were too tall for Jill.
Yes. Yeah.
So if they were looking to do that at home, what like the proportion, should they be looking for in terms of size?
Exactly. So I would say usually if your elbows are bent to 90 degrees, that would be enough for you to give some nice support into the arms. If you are using something like a walker or cane, which is totally fine if you don't have a walking stick, you want to make sure that when your arms are at your side, that the walker or cane is lined up right to your wrist bone, right? Because then it gives you a nice ability to push through and engage some of your upper body muscles to help with your balance. So those would be my 2 recommendations there.
Great. And if they don't have walking poles at home, I know some people, if they have like a kitchen island or their countertop too, then they can kind of hold along the sides and do something similar.
Perfect. Yep. Kitchen counter, whatever you have.
Awesome. Okay, so take home message, we've kind of talked through these exercises, but if people are watching right now, what should they kind of do to get started?
Yeah, so I think starting maybe if you think you or a loved one are a fall risk, then maybe give our sit to stand test a try, give the tug test a try. If you're finding that you're falling under those normative values that are going to be provided to you, maybe worth starting with some of the easier balance progressions that I showed Jill today, and then slowly starting to increase your challenge from there and working your way up. But again, you can always visit a local OT or PT, and we could definitely help you guys out.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys. So yeah, exactly as I said before we jump to questions, if you've watched this, you found what the ladies have said is really helpful, but you still think maybe you're looking for more of an individualized approach, or really just want more assistance as you realize, wow, my balance really has deteriorated and I didn't even know it, then absolutely any of our OT or PT clinicians here would be happy to help you. So please feel free to click the link in the chat and reach out to us, and we can get you started here, right? We did have another question. So a lady walks at the YMCA and she struggles on the tilted curves on the track. So, as you're walking around, some tracks have that like little dip up too. So she struggles with her balance there. Any suggestions on maybe those uneven surfaces?
Yeah, so a lot of times when I'm teaching somebody with an uneven surface, I usually start them with a static progression, right? So how I was showing Jill with the maybe narrow base of support or that tandem stance, and I'd put them on something like unstable, like a small foam pad maybe, or if they have like a throw pillow and they can do that safely at home. Once you've mastered it in a static position, you're setting the muscles up for success, and it's going to be a lot easier when you're walking or doing something dynamic. So maybe give that a try and see if that will be more successful to your walking.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Again, you're going to receive an email with instructions to kind of go over the 2 tests that we've talked about. But as always, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Jill and Tina would be happy to answer your guys' questions. Have a wonderful night. Be safe on those slippery, icy roads and sidewalks out there. And hopefully you can use what we used tonight so we don't have a fall, and we can get through this winter together. We're almost